Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. Unfortunately, we'll be talking about another home defeat. The last time we won a Premier League game here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was on the opening weekend, a 3-0 win against Burnley. That was 3.5 months ago. More boos here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for Thomas Frank and his players. Tottenham Hotspur are now down to 10th in the Premier League table. Now Spurs have 18 points from 13 matches. Now we're live on YouTube, live on Facebook and X. Please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan and let us know what you made of tonight's performance. Tete putting Fulham 1-0 up after 4 minutes. Wilson then doubling the visitors' lead after 6 minutes. Mohamed Kudus getting Tottenham's goal after 59 minutes. Now let's look at the match facts and stats. Tottenham Hotspur with 26 touches inside the opposition box. Fulham with 14. Goalkeeper saves, Spurs 1, Fulham 0. Aerial duels 1, Spurs 23, Fulham 16. Fouls committed, Tottenham 11, Fulham 7. And corners, Spurs had 8 to Fulham's 2. Now possession in the game, Spurs had 62.8% to Fulham's 37.2%. XG, Spurs 0.86 to Fulham's 0.42. Shots, Spurs had 14, Fulham had 7. And shots on target, Spurs had 2, Fulham had 3. Now, very sorry for any background noise. I'm still at the stadium. It will be closing shortly, so this will be a short podcast, but we'll get through as many comments as possible. As per normal, we've got 3 channel regulars with us. Richard Whitehead is back with us. Richard, how are you?
Yeah, struggling really. Struggling tonight. Yeah, I think as a club we definitely need a little bit of a reset. That tonight was embarrassing, and I'm not sure how many players actually got on the plane back from Paris to London, but no energy, no enthusiasm, no character, and no points. Yeah, terrible result tonight. Terrible.
We've also got Terry Leigh back with us from New York. Terry, how are you?
I'm somewhat baffled. I'd say it's I think we have a schizophrenic team here. I mean, first of all, I'd like to say, Richard, it's a pleasure to be on here again with you. Leigh, it's great to meet you. I've seen you on here before, and it's nice to be on with a fellow person from the New York area. Chris, I don't know if you remember, I was on with you and Adrian and Ja Wobble in March when we lost 2-0 away at Fulham. And that felt like one of the lowest points of last season. And inexplicably, today feels even worse than that. So we'll get into it. Oh, this team that we decided to cover, huh? Support.
Do you know what, Terry? Just before I went live on here, I just tweeted another home defeat. Thomas Frank and the players booed off. The stadium half empty towards the end of the game. This is now very normal. Sad times. And you pretty much just said exactly the same thing. I don't know where we go from here. We've also got channel regular Leigh with us, also from New York. Leigh, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me back. It's good to know the anti-Midas touch continues. I show up, we lose. But yeah, it was very, very disappointing. And unfortunately, if you start at the first 15 minutes of a game like that, then it's pretty depressing. And all I could say, and it doesn't make you feel any better, Chris, is thank goodness I don't have a season ticket anymore, because I think the only thing worse than watching it must be being there, knowing you got to get down the high road afterwards. So kudos to you. But yeah, great to be on the channel.
Leigh, let's start the show with you. Let's get your thoughts on today's game, and also let's get your thoughts on the manager, Thomas Frank.
So on the game, I think the big thing for me was like the first couple of minutes, they shut down any passing lanes in midfield. And I've started to think that although you look at our XG and think our problem is up front, I think our problem is midfield. There is no sort of platform for creativity. We don't control games and we just start hitting it long. and that seems to me the biggest worry. I really like Frank. I think this is a 180 in playing styles from last season, for better or for worse. And, you know, change is hard, but he's clearly searching for a system, and he's searching for what are the best players in that system. And I think after 3 or 4 months, that's unfortunately pretty depressing, because you think he'd have a clear idea. So unfortunately, that start, then after that, we were just headless chickens, at least until half time. So it was, I'd say up to this point, you know, you lose against Arsenal, Chelsea in the manner we did. We lost against Paris. You can tell yourself that, okay, we're up against the big boys, but to do that against Fulham was really disappointing.
Rich, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's defeat, and also let's get your thoughts on where you are with Thomas Frank, because inside the stadium here, a lot of people that I talk to face to face, a lot of people that I talk to online, people that I've seen that I don't know that have said things online about Thomas Frank. It does seem like literally 50-50. People are saying give the manager time. A lot of people are saying, look, we need a change. This cannot go on like this. Where do you stand?
Yeah, but it's also accountability from the players as well. And I've heard a lot.
I think we've lost Richard for a couple of minutes. Terry, do you want to take that one?
Rich is on though. If you want to go back, yeah, he's
still there.
Yeah, I'm on. I'm live. I'm trying to turn it off. I think from my point of view, I think the team itself. It's a team, isn't it? And you never turn your back on the team. And the team is bigger than one result, and the team's bigger than the manager. And I think my whole opinion is like twofold. One, as an elite athlete that has those scenarios of when you cross that white line, sometimes lots of things happen that have an influence on the result. And then obviously as a fan, watching the Arsenal game, watching the Chelsea game, watching the PSV game, thinking, where are we actually going? Where's our identity? What kind of characteristics as a team have we got? And then also looking at the players in the starting 11. And Thomas Frank has made some like really strange decisions, I think, over the last like 2 or 3 months. That's really confused me about which direction we're going with. Even tonight, we're taking Richarlison off, which somebody that's always, he's not the best obviously technically, but you know he's going to actually put the work in. It took him off for a more defensive minded player, and I think for me that was a wrong decision. I think tonight's game was a catalyst of players being tired, disengaged. I think I've been on here a lot talking to Chris about when they come in the tunnel, you can normally tell what kind of result is going to come up, especially in the first 45 minutes. And I thought the players just looked knackered. They looked like, I don't know whether they've been given lots of information as well as the fatigue from the last game, but they just didn't look like they were up for the game. And then you've got a team like Fulham, always come to us and want to put in the knife and actually come away with 3 points. I always find with the teams like Fulham that they come to us and they want to get a result. Well, we didn't want a result today. We just looked like a team that were just going to turn Fulham over like a pub team, and that just doesn't happen in the Premier League. Fulham have got match winners within the side, and we today just look toothless.
Terry, same question to you. What have you made of today's performance, and also what have you made of this last week? Because this is 3 defeats in a week, 11 goals conceded.
Yeah, I really think it was a tale of two halves today. So I was encouraged by our performance in the second half, but that first half, oh my gosh. So just the start, Richard, I hope it was due to fatigue. To me, it looked like 11 players who had taken the field for the first time together. I have never seen it that disjointed. Leigh, you absolutely had it spot on in that there was no build-up play, no fluidity. at all. It'd be just a lot of sideways passing, backwards passing, and then a desperate long kick, or risky long kick that had kind of very little upside to the reward, and would just give the ball back. And then the space for the attackers, for the Fulham attackers, just across the board, whether it was Chukwueze or King. I have never heard of Samuel Chukwueze before today. And I mean, that guy looked like a Ballon d'Or winner against Toro in that first half there. I mean, the way that he was blasting by him. If we didn't have Van de Ven, honestly, Fulham should have been up 4-0 at halftime. It should have been 4-0. But in the second half, it was a little bit of a slower start, but I thought it was one-way traffic for Tottenham for most of that second half. And there were even points where I thought that we could come back and win this game. I don't think it would have been deserved, but much more cohesion, much more impetus, much more creativity and desire in that second half. And that's what makes it so tough, because even that PSG game, you saw glimpses, and I think most people came away from that PSG game with a sense of hope that, like, Bergvall and Gray provided some hope there, and you could see things that would be going on. So when you think of that, then you think, okay, maybe Thomas Frank does have a plan here. But then kind of we're setting records, unwanted records, left and right here. I mean, not only the two lowest XGs of the year. I mean, that the site Squawka is just going nuts on stats here. So 5 minutes and 43 seconds. It's the earliest to concede two goals in a home Premier League game. It's the first ever win at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for Fulham. 10 defeats at home in a calendar year, since 2003 and 1994. And we still have December to go. And then we've trailed in 6 straight home games for the first time since 2003. I don't know what's going on. I mean, we were talking about Frank a couple of months ago, and I remember saying the team just feels so safe, especially after Ange. I mean, I loved Ange. I still love Thomas Frank. It felt so safe. What's happened? What has happened to this team in the past couple of months? It's a schizophrenic team. Like, even within the games, it's schizophrenic. Yeah.
I've got to say, on the touchline today, Thomas Frank was the most animated I've ever seen him throughout the whole of the 90 minutes. Leigh, let's come to you. Terry talks there about the midfield duo, Bergvall and Gray, who of course done very well on Wednesday against PSG. Let's talk about the starting 11 today. Vicario in goal, the back four of Porro, Danso, Van de Ven as captain, because of course Romero is out suspended. Udogie at left back. Midfield, Polinia, Gray, Bergvall, and the forward line of Kudus, Moani and Richarlison. Subs this evening: Javi, Tell, Johnson, Spence, Odebear, Sarr, Bentancur, Davis and Kinski. What did you make of the starting 11 today? Because I've said this on many podcasts this season, it's very, very unpredictable, isn't it? Thomas Frank, you never ever know what starting 11 he's going to go with.
Yeah, I mean, he seemed to try and deploy, I mean, you'd know better, Chris, you were there, but it looked like he was trying to deploy that sort of narrow diamond in midfield again. I was really pleased to see Gray start along with Bergvall, because that was encouraging the other night. Probably like many of us, we're still sort of hoping Simons is going to show up, and I was kind of thought maybe he'd start over Kudus. I'm increasingly getting nervous about Paulinho at home. Like, there's when we're away, I think you play him, but unless Bentancur was too tired, like, Bentancur seems to at least try and nip play, and he tries to turn and tries to play forward. Paulinho, I really, really like him as a player, but he's sideways and backwards. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, maybe we're going to be a little more on the expansive side, but that just didn't happen. So the system looked like he was trying to build from the other night. But again, I think Simon's, little bright spark. So I was kind of hoping he might start, but obviously he didn't.
Rich, let's come to you. Let's talk about the game itself. After 4 minutes, Fulham got off to an absolute flying start, going 1-0 up. What did you make of this first goal?
Jeez. What can I say? What can I say? I think obviously you look at obviously the setup for one. I think the ball before the actual where the ball is on the screen at the moment. Obviously wrong-footed Bergvall, and then obviously came out to obviously their player who hit it, and it went off Udogie to wrong foot Vicario on his right post. So I think for me, I think Udogie had a really poor game today. I think he looked very tired. I think there was, in that first goal, there was not a lot of intensity. I would have expected the defence to really come out and press and really show intent. Well, if you look at all the players that's in the box at the moment, they're still all on their feet. Nobody's actually kind of pressed the ball at all. And it was a really, really bad start, and it didn't help. Obviously, the atmosphere in the stadium. I felt obviously initially before the kickoff, it sounded like the stadium was up for the game, and it felt like after the first goal and then the second mistake, like all the air was let out of the stadium, and then the 12th man that you want at home was then on the backs of the players, which you don't want to see. And again, I allude this to every time I come on after a loss, that as a fan, booing your players does not help your team. And as fans, that is the worst thing you can do. It really is the worst thing. And I might have shouted at players when I've been at the games, but I've never booed. It does not help. I don't understand fans that think it helps by booing your keeper when he's made a big mistake, how that's going to help. Yes, we understand that, obviously, on the field of play, when you make those mistakes, you have to live with that. And then the manager can deal with that after the game, whether they drop him or whatever. But you can't, boo your players. At that stage, I knew we were in trouble after the second goal. I knew we were in trouble on the players.
Terry, I'm going to come to you on the second goal after 6 minutes, but what Richard just said there about the booing. Now, we have been under Thomas Frank for 7 home Premier League games this season. We have heard boos in 5 out of those 7 games, either at half-time and or full-time. Now, Thomas Frank in the press conference just now on the booing, I know we talk about the second goal, but straight after the second goal went in and a couple of times after, a couple of touches from Vicario, he was booed inside the stadium. Thomas Frank has just said, I didn't like that our fans booed Vicario straight after his mistake, and a few times after that. They cannot be true Tottenham Hotspur fans because everyone supports each other when you're on the pitch. I'm fine with them booing after the match, but not during the game. This is unacceptable. First, Terry, I'll break this into 2. What did you make of the second goal that Spurs conceded? Because, I played in goal, at amateur level, and you're always taught, any danger, you just get rid of that ball. What on earth was Vicario doing? I do agree with Richard. I've never ever booed any player. I've never ever booed my team. I can't tell, or Richard or I can't tell other people how to act or what to do. But this is sad times.
No, I was hoping I wouldn't be the one to get the second goal because I think I love Vicario. I think he's saved us many times this season from even more embarrassment. But this was not just one of the worst goals I've ever seen conceded by a goalie. I mean, this is just one of the worst goals I've ever seen conceded, period. Period. And it's just what's confusing to me about this is that we've kicked it long and kind of gave possession back a lot this season, and it seems like we've been caught like the few times that we do try to play out the back. I mean, it ends up being pretty disastrous. I mean, it happened on Wednesday with that Pape Sarr trying to play out the back in that goal for PSG. And then this inexplicable mistake. So I don't know was this just a brain fart from Vicario? Is this the coaching from Frank and his staff? Are they adamant that he has to play out? Why was he out that far in the first place? And as much as I love Vicario, and I think he is a great leader, one thing we could say about him is that he does kind of yell at his teammates quite a bit. And again, inexplicably, he did that again after this play. This was 100% on Vicario. How on earth could you point the finger? Who are you yelling at after this? And how is that going to make your defenders want to fight for you after laying blame after a mistake like that? So it's just, and for it to happen so quickly after that Tete goal as well, just completely sucked the life, and that set the mood, right? It talking about the crowd, it feels like a symbiotic toxic relationship right now, where the crowd is bluing because we're starting so poorly. Again, that stat about we're trailed in 6 straight home games for the first time since 2003. But the players don't seem to react well to that either. Like you said, and nor should they. I don't know how well I would react to being booed by my home fans. There was one moment, so this actually into the second half, where 52nd minute, where Poro won a corner and he tried to G up the crowd and he got absolutely no response from that. And that was kind of dismaying to see. I mean, he wanted some kind of support to that, but again, kind of from the crowd's point of view, they were just so kind of dismayed by the situation at that point. They just didn't have the energy or the will to provide any support. So it seems toxic in a really bad way, going both ways. And I'm not sure what to do about that.
Leigh, let's come to you. After 11 minutes, Fulham had a shot that went just wide, and it could have very, very easily been 3-0 after 11 minutes. And it's fair to say that the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, every fan inside, the home fans certainly, were absolutely stunned. And I'm sure some people in the away end were absolutely stunned that, Fulham haven't won a Premier League game all season. Before today, they had played 6, they'd drawn 1, and they had lost 5.
Yeah, I mean, they had that chance where the guy bent it and hit the post right after, right? Yeah, I don't. It's funny. I'm not sure about Vicario. I got to be honest. Like, I think he's a brilliant shot stopper, but I think he's a one-dimensional keeper, and I think that confidence that needs to build from the back. He dwells on the ball. His passing's not that sharp. He's great in a one-on-one, but that move. I mean, we've all played rubbish football at a younger level, but if in doubt, kick it out. I mean, that's like the first thing you learn when you're about 5. So unfortunately, that set the tone. And then confidence seemed to just go. And I think what Richard said at the beginning, and he'd know better than any of us, but the physical fatigue is one part, but the mental fatigue of just probably not having clear heads. Like, what is it you're trying to do? What are we trying to do as a team? Like, everything seemed so frantic and so rushed. And yes, okay, we played one more game than Fulham, but it was almost like our heads weren't in the game. And what Vicario did was as much symptomatic of where his headspace was than any sort of tactical mess up for me.
And it also, can I just add to that as well? And even back down to when we were playing United and we went to win the game, and then they scored in injury time. I think we kind of lose the platform that the managers set out for the team, the structure the managers delivering to the team. The players either don't understand it or don't understand how he wants it delivered. And like Richarlison scored, takes his shirt off against United, then the other team, we switch off, the other team score. And it was kind of the same today, where we let a goal in and then everybody's heads are down and there's no structure at all. And then we let another one and everything goes to shit because the players aren't really focused. And I think Leigh is definitely right. The mental side of football is about, we've all got our responsibilities. we're 11 collective players that do certain things in certain scenarios, and we win and lose and draw as a team. And I think at the moment, you look, there's so many gaps in the midfield, and whether players are coming inside or going out wide, I just think we've really lost our identity, and we've lost the goals from Johnson that we had last year, playing how we played last year, and we've not nobody's actually come up with those goals at all, and we just don't look dangerous at all in attack because the midfield, we're not building from the back. We've got no confidence in the team, and that's what we're lacking. It's momentum is key in sport, and also confidence is so important, and the players' confidence is shot.
Hey, Richard, just one. I'm sorry, Chris. Just one point on that. Richard, you mentioned that it seems like the players don't seem to know how Frank wants it delivered. I don't know if Frank knows how he wants it delivered, because every week he's been tinkering with the formation, and that's something that we lauded him for early on in the season, because it seemed like he was making these adjustments for the opposition. And we had different game plans, but it was working. But now it seems to just be causing more confusion.
I was going to ask that exact question, Terry. So, is that a good thing? Is it not such a good thing now? Because we've spoke very complimentary about that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I thought it was a good thing. It's like seeing kind of the difference between how the Super Cup game, then to how we played against Burnley, and then in the subsequent games here. It's like we were kind of proud in saying we have no idea what the lineup's going to be. We have no idea what the formation is going to be, because that's how versatile we are. But that seems to be taking a toll on the players in terms of just not being clear in what the direction is. I feel like it kind of clicked for the players in the second half. Again, it was a completely different team in the second half. But I like what Richard and Leigh are saying about, like, not just the physical fatigue, but that mental fatigue as well. And that could be due to just new players coming in and out, and new formations. It's hard to tell sometimes, even like what the formations are. I'm sure it's easier to see in the stadium, but sometimes it's hard to tell.
Vicario on being booed after that mistake, Fulham's second goal. He said it is part of football. We cannot be influenced for what is the situation in the stands. The fans have the right to do what they think is right, and probably it is on us to stay more calm and focus more on ourselves. Richard, I want to come back to you because after 12 minutes, Spurs put a cross into Richarlison, tame header at goal. 3 minutes later, ball played up to Richarlison, failed to connect. And then straight after this, the Fulham fans, a little bit of banter here, they were singing "Is This a Library?" because the stadium was so quiet, followed by you're getting sacked in the morning to Thomas Frank. How do you feel right now as a Spurs fan about Thomas Frank? Because you've been on many podcasts with me over the years, and we've spoken about so many different managers. We've gone around in circles in so many different ways. Of course, we won the Europa League with Ange. We have a manager that wins us a trophy after all this time, and then we sack him. That's a whole new debate whether that was right or wrong. How are you feeling about Thomas Frank right now?
I'm just reading some of the comments in the comment column. I'm definitely not repeating some of them anyway. Oh my goodness. I think when you change direction 360 degrees, it clearly takes a lot of time. And what I think Thomas has tried to do is change everything at once, and nothing's really landed, and that's his might be his downfall as a manager. And I think for me as a manager, you need to look at the situation, you need to look at the scenario, you need to look at the tools you've got within the team, you need to look at the experience that you've got. You need to put all that together, and you need to slowly change things. I think Leigh was right. I think you really need to change things one pin at a time. And because he makes so many changes, I don't think the players know their position, know the tactical decision making from the manager hasn't really dissected from the sidelines onto the pitch. And every game, it's literally like, it's not even a toss of a coin what you're going to get with Spurs. It's normally this kind of football with it sometimes a different end result. And I think even down to tonight, when I looked at Mohamed Kudus, looked at his energy, it wasn't there. You looked in his eyes, he looked confused. It looked like he knew he had to do a lot today to bring the team back into the game. And obviously he did with his goal. But I think Thomas Frank really is, I don't know if he's lost. I don't know if he's lost with his ideas. I don't know. I think all the information we got before the season started about where we were going as a club, where Frank was kind of seeing us as a team, nobody's actually coming out to actually explain why we're losing these games and why we're shipping so many goals. We're meant to have a manager that's more tactical, resilient within these situations. With obviously the teams that he's had before, he's able to beat teams like Man City, control games, be more defensive minded. Is it because he hasn't got the players he can trust? Or is it because he just hasn't got a clue and he isn't the right man for the job? For me, I think he's changed things far too quickly. And within the Premier League, you get found out. I think managers need more time. You can't go sacking managers unless we've got a ready appointment. Like, I don't know whether Jurgen Klopp would want to come and manage Spurs. Maybe, I don't know, but I think for me it's too early to say with Frank.
Terry, let's come to you. After 26 minutes, it looked like Fulham were through again. It could have been 3-0 at this point, but for Van der Ven with a fantastic tackle, of course, wore the captain's armband today. 4 minutes later, Van der Ven received a yellow card in the Fulham box. And I must say, whenever I've seen Van der Ven wear that captain's armband, we do have a very aggressive captain, and I like that side of Van der Ven, I must say. One other thing I wrote down about the first half is the fact that we kept going out to Mohamed Kudus. We kept trying the right-hand side, nothing really going on the left, and nothing really going through the middle either. Fulham put a cross in. It was headed away on 38 minutes. They were a real threat going forward. On 45 minutes, Van der Ven shot from 20 yards out. I think that was pure frustration that Spurs didn't really create anything in that first half. Boost for Thomas Frank and the team at half-time. The XG at half-time, 0.07. Terry, let me ask you about Van der Ven, because wearing the captain's armband again today, what did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I mean, arguably our man of the match. It's like not just that fantastic save on Chukwueze when he blasted by Porro. He made a couple of saves like that. You could see that he was really up for it. I was glad to see, because like he and Romero both didn't have the greatest of games against PSG. One thing I had in my notes here, and this kind of goes back to your point, Richard, about kind of does Thomas Frank have the right players? I found myself missing Kulusevski, just because when it was really frantic and we kept losing the ball, Kulusevski has a tendency to just, he can slow things down, and he kind of has that natural leadership where he kind of understands that we need to change the pace a bit just to stop the onslaught, which it felt like in that first half against Fulham. So I mean, we know about not just Kulusevski, but the other players that are out there. You can't make a judgment on a coach after a dozen games, really. I mean, I've always been on the patient side. I would say I think there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions in football, especially these days, and I think that's just the day and age that we live in. I mean, I think Ange should have gotten a third season, but I was encouraged to see and happy to see Frank in. I think there's enough positives, as painful as it is right now, there's enough positives that I think any talk of a new coach at this point, this early in November, is, to me, it's a bit crazy. I think we revisit after a year, really after 2 years.
What are they, Terry? Give us the positives.
The second half today, the performance against PSG. There's been lows, the low lows, the Arsenal game, the Chelsea game as well. I do want to see what he does with a number 10 who can who can keep control of the ball. Because Xavi, I think we've seen glimpses with him. I don't think today was his greatest game. I'd like to see what he can do with Solanke. I think the positive, you're seeing Colomwani really. I think he's had a great week. I think he's clearly the player of the week based off of the 2 games. And then he hasn't had many transfer windows too. There are clearly players that need to be turned over here. It's Richarlison. I thought the starting lineup was that's exactly the starting lineup I would have wanted, except for Richarlison. I just can't say who else I would have seen because there really is no. But Richarlison, Odegaard, to me are barely Premier League players, much less starters for us. So I feel like we have to give him a couple of windows to build up in his style, and see that. I understand the frustration right now. It's after a dozen games to not give a coach when you've seen other coaches, Arteta, even Sir Alex Ferguson, the slow starts there and kind of what they were able to build up to. Maybe it's just a different time and age now. Maybe we just don't live in a time where you get a year or 2 years. But I don't see the upside to flipping over the coach yet again, bringing in yet another new system, and trying to implement a new style once again. I don't know how that helps us.
Leigh, do you agree or disagree with Terry?
Oh, I mean, I agree. Yeah, I agree with broadly what Terry's saying. I mean, look, you've got to give the guy time. The question is whether he's going to get time, and if it carries on like this, time runs out pretty fast. But I think, as we said at the beginning, this is a 180. This is not, Klopp to Slot at Liverpool, where there's just a bit of a nuanced difference. This is a completely different style. But so it's going to take time. But I agree with Richard. Like, he's tried probably to do too many changes too soon. And I think the thing we're lacking along with confidence is continuity. Like, where's the continuity where you start to see players getting some patterns of play? They get used to playing with each other. I mean, it's really basic and kind of classic sort of armchair punditry, but like, get some familiarity. And I think Terry said earlier, they look like strangers again. So I think he's got to find out what's his core. Ali Gold was on about the other day, like, was the other day like Frank's Poch moment against Villa? And I was like, I don't know, like maybe, but like, he's got to find a core of a team that is performing, because at the moment it's just, it's pieces and parts. It's not a sort of.
I don't get that, Leigh. I don't get the whole narrative about was that his Pochettino moment when we've lost 5-3 away at PSG. We've shipped 11 goals this week. I'm really, really in the middle. I know there's a lot of people at the moment really going on about Thomas Frank, and there are a lot of people also saying give him time. I really don't know where I stand right now, because this has just become very, very normal of us losing home games and the performances being really poor, and I expected a lot more.
Yeah, and you more than anyone see every single game in every single venue. So your opinion counts for a lot. And I think, look, you've got a lot of people who are still disgruntled that Ange got sacked. I wasn't one of them. Ask the Nottingham Forest fans how they feel about him, but clearly something's not working. It's not working. So he's got to find a solution, and quick, because he will run out of time.
I think, Chris, what I said earlier about changing too much at once, I think Leigh alluded to it then and made the Liverpool reference. You look at, obviously, the first season under Slot, he had exactly the same team inherited from the manager previous, didn't change anything, and walked, the Premier League. This year, drastic changes. Obviously, some of those were forced because of players wanting out, etc. Those players have come in, and you see what's happened. They've really lost their playing identity. The playing patterns aren't there anymore. The season before, you knew the players that fit into that system. You knew that what positions they'd have, and you'd know the Trent Alexander-Arnold impact, and you'd know, obviously, the patterns of play that would bring Salah into into the player that he is, one of the world's best players. Now this year, out of sorts, out of character, they're saying, but I think it's because of the team dynamics massively changed, and I think we need to remember that when we're thinking about maybe binning a manager. I would say from today and the last couple of weeks, there's not a lot to shout about.
Right.
I agree with you there, Chris. I think positives are really hard to look at, and I watched the game today, the Arsenal game, like I say, the Chelsea game, the PSG game, and I was like going, you can't be happy with shipping 5, 4 and 5 goals, especially to Arsenal as well, and letting a player that we should have had score a hat-trick against you. It was, terrible to see. But you've obviously got to have a solution to the disgruntlement that obviously the fans are having. And I think it's now about coming together as a club collectively and showing strength, not being disjointed and like sacking this manager and blaming this player and blaming Vicario and blaming Richarlison. You cannot do that. 11 players go out on the pitch. 11 average players can win a game, but collectively they'll be stronger. When you get the fans like booing the players, it doesn't help at all.
But it can't go on like this, though, Rich.
Yeah, no, but you build confidence, you build momentum. You have a manager that believes in the process. We need to believe in the process, and just kind of. I understand that when you go to the stadium and see a result like tonight, it is really frustrating, and I understand that. But then you've also got to think the reason why you support the club is because you believe in the mission, you believe in the philosophy, and you have to have that self-belief. If you lose that, then obviously that's when everybody starts infighting, and it doesn't help. It makes the team worse. And I thought we had a pivotal moment in Bilbao. I actually thought we had a pivotal moment of winning, and then the high road celebrations. And I think what that's actually done is it actually clouded some of the real problems in the club. And that is, for me, that I think we aspire to be something that probably we are not anywhere near at the moment. And that is frustrating because we all want to be in those top 4 clubs. I don't think we're anywhere near it, especially after the last 4 or 5 results. It's really frustrating. We need a lot more infrastructure put in place, not just in the men's team, but also the women's team. And also we need to have a winning mentality. We need to have confidence in the team. We need to have momentum. We need to have a real structure that creates success. Leaders in the dressing room, leaders in the boardroom, and leaders in the stands as well, kind of advocating for the team.
Now,
I'll go for the job. Sack him. I'll go for the job.
Thomas Frank has again been talking about the booing of Vicario. He said you can't go after one player. If you want people to perform, you don't go after them. Terry, let's come to you. Let's talk about the second half. 25 seconds in, Mawani had a shot blocked. On 57 minutes, this was Tottenham's best move by a mile. Poro crossed in, Mawani headed just wide, and then 2 minutes later, Tottenham's goal came through Mohamed Kudus, and what excellent work from Lucas Bergvall.
Yeah, that was really great, and I mean, I put in my notes here that it feels like the goal had been coming. There's a corner on the 52nd minute as well that Cowlin header was just wide of the post, and then that winning the ball from Bergvall and great pass to Kudus, and I love just like the conviction with which he put that away. And I felt like we really had the momentum at that point. We had a bunch of chances after that as well in the 64th minute, the 66th minute. It really felt like one-way traffic. I felt like an equalizer was coming, and maybe even a winner. And it's just a shame that we just couldn't put it away. It's like, I think that comes back to that mentality that we've been talking about. It's just that. Like, we don't have that kind of that nous to when we have the momentum to really take advantage of that. There's so many close calls that are just a little bit wasteful. And we don't seem to have that spine to be able to come back in games like this.
Now, I did say at the very start that this was going to be a short podcast. Leigh, I'm going to give you a last question because I know you've got to go. So I'm going to read out a quote now from Vicario. He has just posted on Instagram. He said, "I take full responsibility for the second goal that we conceded. Moments like this hurt, especially when the results aren't going our way. Now, more than ever, it's time to fight even harder and give everything for this club." Now, of course, we're in action again on Tuesday evening, and then following that, we're in action at home against Brentford next weekend here at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Surely Vicario's got to stay in goal, hasn't he, for Tuesday's game?
Yeah, you know what, he does, because I think you've got to back him, and to Richard's point, you've got to. We didn't lose the game because of Vicario. He made a stinking mistake. That the whole team was disjointed, and that's why we lost that game. That moment did not help us by any means, but I don't blame him for losing the game because, even though the second half was a bit better, let's face it, it was desperate. We were throwing the kitchen sink. Maybe we would have got away with it. So I think you've got to back him, but I will say we shouldn't rule out looking for someone better, whether that's January or in the summer. But for now, he's the number one, and I think you have to put your arm around him and say, we trust you. Let's be better. And hopefully on Tuesday we will, but it's going to be tough. We never win at Newcastle, ever.
Leigh, before you go, what's your score prediction for the Newcastle game?
3-0 Newcastle? I don't know.
Blimey. Well,
Sorry.
enjoy your day out. Great to have you back on with us, and we will speak to you again soon.
Great. Good to see you. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Rich, Terry, if I can, I'll continue with you guys. Rich, let's come to you. After Tottenham scored, the three subs were already lined up. Polinia, Richarlison, Gray, they all went off. Javi Simmons, Bentancur, Odebear coming on.
I would have actually not made those substitutes straight away. I think it took a little bit of momentum away from the team. I think after you score a goal, it's a positive impact. And you saw the impact that had with taking those players off after we scored. And I think for me, that was Frank should have gone, actually, we'll hold off a minute, unless it was due to fatigue or that it was a performance reason. I think he should have kept, obviously the players that came off weren't too happy because of the situation we're in at the time. I think that was a bad decision if it wasn't performance based. I think he should have held that for another maybe 5 or 6 minutes, because again we kind of were on the front foot and it was attack all the time. And I think after those subs, because when you're putting those 3 in, 2 in scenarios, sometimes it takes a bit of time for those players to understand their positioning, what their responsibilities in the game. And I think that was the case. We never built off the substitutes that came on. I never felt that we had that impact. And if we did want that impact player, why wouldn't we put Johnson on? He's that player. He's that player that was brought to the club for that impact. And yes, there's obviously with form at the moment, they're saying that Johnson's maybe not in greatest of form. But I think for me, that would be one.
Rich, what about the lack of game time that Javi Simmons is getting right now? Are you worried about that?
Yeah, well, I think obviously as well, there's a report saying that the style of play for the Premier League is too physical for him, and he didn't realise how physical the Premier League was. I think he is a player that needs that game time to understand the patterns of play, and he's obviously not getting that at the moment. But where does he fit in the side that he doesn't become one of those luxury players? I don't know about what you think, Terry, but I think at the moment I'm just not sure where he fits. And when Kulusevski comes back in, maybe he'd fit into that 10 anyway. Maybe he'd come inside. So where does he fit? Where do you think, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would feel much more comfortable with Kulusevski as a regular 10 rather than it being Javi. I mean, he'll show moments here. I understand what you're saying about changing the momentum right after the goal and bringing them in. But I mean, so just a few minutes after he came on, so Javi had in the 64th minute, he had a really nice flick to Cowlin, who looked really sharp today, by the way.
Yeah.
And then In the 66th minute, we had a really nice break. The ball was won by Bergvall, and the guy got to Porro. He had a really good cross, and Xavi almost got onto the end of it, and the defender just blocked it, and that led to a corner. And then from that corner, Bergvall almost scored. That's the one where Jimenez headed it off
the line,
off the line there. Like that's the section where I feel like we looked the sharpest, and that was with Xavi, Odobert, and Bentancur on the field there. So I know what you're saying with the momentum, but I do think they brought some good energy for at least for that period there. It's Xavi just doesn't seem like a regular starter. He seems like I guess it's not surprising, but he does seem much more comfortable against European opposition than against Premier League.
And maybe that's the actual pace of the game, maybe.
Yeah, not just the physicality, but the pace as well. He always seems to be just a little bit surprised that these big guys are as quick as him and are as fast as him. And he doesn't have that kind of that extra luxury that he seems to have in the European games. So I'm a little worried. You see glimpses of him, but I feel like you see more of him losing the ball. He had a back heel flip that he tried in the late in the second half that didn't go anywhere, and there was a smattering of boos for that. Just doesn't. It's not quite clicking for him, and it's
maybe he needs to play a little bit deeper then with some security as a somebody that's maybe a holding player, and then maybe he'll have more confidence on the ball, and he might be able to see the play a little bit more. I think at the moment he's not getting the time on the ball. He's having to do those kind of little dribbling moments where he's on the ball and he gets tackled, etc. I think he's not actually getting enough of the ball as well. And whether Thomas Frank's style of play is dictating that he isn't actually getting that kind of ball time. Well, obviously, like Chris alluded to at the start of the podcast, that because Frank's playing those inverted players now, you'd think he would get more playing time, so you would start him. But I think because of that,
Rich, can I ask you about the styles of play, because we've seen three different styles of play, three different formations, three completely different games. Arsenal last weekend, which was an absolute disaster. Of course, scoring 3 goals away at PSG, the Champions League winners, fantastic. Although you don't want to be conceding 5 goals away from home, particularly in the Champions League. And then today, what do you make of the style of play? Are you being entertained? Do you like the style of play? Do you see a lot of positives going forward under Thomas Frank?
One, I hate losing. So that's obviously a no. 2, it's confusing. I'd like to see like an 11 that I know. I'd like to see an 11 that I know that they're going to be solid at the back. I know they're going to be dynamic in midfield. I know we're going to have a goal threat. I know we're going to get lots of crosses in. I think what's happened with the team this year, it's exposed us in lots of different ways, and then we're using like weapons like long throws, and I'm literally going like scratching my head. How has that been like our most lethal weapon? Do you know what I mean? Where before it was like dynamic wingers, or it was creative number 10s, or it was those crosses into the box, and even Richarlison was moaning that he wasn't getting enough service. Start scoring a couple of goals, and then obviously we're inverting to different styles of play through the midfield, which aren't working. I think for me it's very confusing. I think that the fans are very confused around the starting 11. I would definitely say that what I'm hearing from lots of fans in the chat and obviously online is they don't know who's going to be in the starting 11. They don't know which Spurs is going to turn up, and it's a lottery performance.
Can I ask you, Terry, does it make it easier, the fact that Spurs finished 17th last year in the Premier League, losing 22 league games, for a manager like Thomas Frank to come in and experiment and play the way that he wants to, losing games like this? Because, like Richard just said there, I don't like losing games. I don't like losing anything that I'm involved in. And to turn up to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for the last 3.5 months and we haven't won in the Premier League is painful. It hurts. And I want to see us win. And I don't like to see the fans unhappy. Certainly don't like to see them booing our players and booing our manager. And people leaving the stadium early. But does it give him a little bit more time? You said earlier, give the manager time, be patient with him. Does it give him more time because of our league record was so bad last season?
I think it should give him more time. I don't think that's the sentiment right now, though. It feels like, at least for me, last season seems like a millennium ago. It seems like such a long time ago. It's the only thing that's similar is that we were kind of in the same level of misery as we were in the second half of last season when we were losing all those Premier League games. But at least we had that ray of hope of Europa League driving us forward. In terms of the style of play, again, you kind of see those glimpses, and but it's only glimpses. That's the frustrating part. I mean, that first goal against PSG, where Gray crossed it to Cowlin, who had that beautiful header to Richarlison. That was beautiful, fluid play, but it really sticks out because I can't think of many other examples of that over the past 3 months where we had kind of beautiful play in fluid goals going forward. So I mean, you kind of have to think back to like the Man City game where you feel like we were really in control and kind of solid at both ends of the side. And in terms of the set pieces, the long throws, Richard, I like those. I do think it adds another element to the team, and if it can give you a bit of advantage. But what's making it tough is that we aren't capitalizing on any of those chances right now.
That's all we've got at the moment as well.
Yeah. I mean, we do have the corners and the long throws are threatening, but if we're not capitalizing on them, then it's just going to kind of compound on the misery that we have here. So, yeah, like you said, Chris, I don't know if Mighty fans think about the 17th place at this point. It seems like a distant memory, and it's kind of the worry is just kind of how do we get out of this mire that we're in right now.
But there's always a certain level of expectation, Terry, and I always think about our motto: to dare is to do. And when I feel like we are not daring and certainly not doing, that's when I start getting worried.
Yeah, I was certainly not doing that. It's I mean, with the two lowest XG marks, that explains that. Kind of, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but kind of just coming from an American point of view, like this because I've heard a lot about just the Tottenham way, and to me, Richard, like winning is the most important thing. I would not care if we were the most boring team and won that way. And, like, we're talking about this now because we aren't. But how is that so ingrained? Is it like, did you guys just grow up with that? Is there another club that has this kind of mantra that we need to play a certain way? Maybe I just don't follow other clubs closely enough, but at least from my point of view, having only followed Spurs closely for 10 years, I'm a little baffled by that, and that may be a very American thing to say.
I think it's behaviours as well, like Chris alluded to. I think when you see the behaviours that are very soft and they're not winning behaviours, they're not leadership behaviours, they're not behaviours that are progressive, they're very passive, and for me, I see it. I saw a lot of it today. A lot of negative play. I didn't see the passion from the players. And then the expectation is that you get passion from the stands as well. But sometimes you need to lift the fans. You need to smash a player. So what? You get a yellow card. You need to do that. You need to be like all this handbags bullshit. If you're going to do it properly, just go in and make an impact on a player. And that's what the players aren't doing. They need not to be scared of ruffling some feathers and actually making an impact. And when they put on that shirt, it shouldn't be a job. It should be like, sport isn't a job. Sport's a responsibility. You're responsible to your fans. And that's the problem, that some of these players, I'm not sure they're feeling it at the moment, or if they are, they maybe haven't got the direction from the manager and his team.
Rich, Terry mentioned this earlier, and also I mentioned it about the XG. Certainly in these home games have been terrible. Even at Arsenal last week, the XG was 0 in the opening 45 minutes. When we get the likes of Solanke, Kulusevski, James Maddison back, do you have more confidence in that we're going to create a lot more in that final third?
We've got to think we're going to, because it's been so bad, but you can't expect that to these players just to all of a sudden be a lift that we're expecting. That's my real dilemma. Are these players, when they come back, the three that you mentioned, going to have that direct uplift? I think we're well off. And I think it's not just the players, it's the mentality. It's like we need players coming out and like really showing that the love for the fans, love for the shirt, but also the willing to win, and that they want those moments like when we won the cup. They want them again, and they want that willing mentality. And it's not about one game, it's about continuous winning. And it's okay to celebrate winning one game, but it needs to be sustainable. We need to be seeing these behaviours all the time. You can't be seeing a great game by one player on Wednesday and then them not turning up the next game. It needs to be consistent. And that's what we haven't got. We haven't got any consistency in the team or performance. A lot of people in the comments are saying, yes, we have, it's shit, consistently shit. And that's fine, but that's not a solution, is it? It's not a solution saying the team's shit and just slating the team all the time. You need to have a solution. How are we going to turn this round? And we collectively need to come together. We need to empower the players to be better. And then we need to let them do the best they can do on the pitch. We have players that can win games, but a lot of them are underperforming in maybe a system that doesn't work for them to get the best out of their ability.
Terry, let's go back to talking about the game, because after Spurs got our goal and it was 2-1, as I mentioned, the treble sub, Odegaard was one of the players that did come on. Of course, I believe, and I know a lot of people won't like this, I believe that we're really missing Heung-min Son on that left-hand side. What have you made of Wilson Odegaard? Is he going to be the player to take Tottenham forward in that position, or is this a position that Spurs should really be targeting in the January transfer window?
Please pick up someone on the left wing. I think that's been our weakest point this entire season. I have slagged off Odegaard quite a bit this season, and I don't want to single out certain players. Like you said, Richard, it's not the right thing to do. It's not supportive. There are games like today where I question whether he's even a Premier League player, much less a starter or a regular player for us. I wrote down in my notes here, it's like one moment kind of encapsulated for me. So in the 86th minute, Odegaard, he took on Anderson and he won a corner because he couldn't get past him. And then they showed him walking off and he had this satisfied look on his face. Like, okay, I did enough here. That's not what our left winger should be doing. You should be driving past your man, getting past the man, and then pinging across in. And more often than not, he cannot do that. The thought of, I agree that even when Solanke and Kulusevski come back, it's going to take them weeks, if not months, to get back up to speed and to be at peak performance. But the thought of a front three of Kolomwani, Solanke, and Kudus, that's a pretty, on paper, that sounds like a really good front three. If you were to, now I'm kind of going to dreamland here, but if you were to add a Semenyo into that, if you were to see him, you have to think a player like Semenyo, he does everything that we want our left winger to do, and he's two-footed like Heung-min Son, right? It's exactly what we would need. I agree with you, Chris. I thought, when Son left, it felt like the right time for both parties, but I think we're sorely missing the energy, the leadership. Some of this, he would lose the ball a bit, but I for those who don't follow LAFC as much. I mean, he has been transformational, not just for his team, but for the league. It's he's been absolutely on fire. So, yeah.
Can I just answer that one as well, Chris? I just think I said this last year. If our expectations for the club are top four or Champions League, then the players that come into those positions, they need to be those kind of players that we're expecting to be. And he, Otterbear, isn't one of those players. He's one of those young developing players. He's not anywhere near that finished article for me, to be honest. And some of the players aren't either. And that's where I've had a real issue with Spurs probably over the last maybe 2 or 3 seasons when we've been buying these players. There might be players instead of going for, and I saw in the comments as well, I was just thinking exactly the same with Grealish going to Everton. He should have come to us. After Son going out the door, he should have just popped in. And obviously losing out on Eze as well, that was a big loss for us. That if we'd have got Eze, that would have showed that intent that I've just spoke about. We can all talk about the players that we have lost, and there's been a lot of them, but we need to have players that are of that quality or the trajectory of that quality. And you can't just get with these really young players and then expecting them to be elevated within like 18 months, because it just doesn't really happen like that. It doesn't really happen. Some of these players, even Dembele from PSG that won the Ballon d'Or last year, they were looking to get rid of him the season before, and we were in for him. So you just don't know. I think for me, you need to have the quality to get the results.
Rich, after 66 minutes, a crossing from the right-hand side, Javi put it over the bar, and then in the same minute, a corner from the right-hand side, Bergvall header, and then headed off the line. What did you make of Lucas Bergvall today, and do you think he's going to be a mainstay in this team? Because I think one or two of you said earlier about him and Archie Gray, their performances away at PSG. And also, do you think that Thomas Frank, when everyone is fit and available, do you think he actually knows his best 11?
Well, I don't think he knows, no. But Bergvall, very interesting. I think obviously a very young player. I think to play two games in a week at that intensity, I think maybe expecting a lot, not just physically, but also the demands of obviously the Premier League and Champions League being so different. The style of plays, the characteristics of player matching other players. I think it just didn't really work today. I think there was lots of gaps, and whether that was Paulinho's fault or Archie Gray's kind of being too far away from each other. I think for me, it was just like it just didn't really work today in the first half. In the second half, because he switched it around a little bit, I think there's more continuity, and that gave Bergvall a little bit more of a license to dictate the game, which he obviously showed. He's obviously a really young player who's going to make those mistakes as he develops, and obviously he's a great talent with a great opportunity to be a mainstay within the team. But I also think we need to have that experience within the heart of the midfield. And I think Paulinho was hopefully going to be that person. But today, he was one of the players that was very, very poor. Looked like his legs had gone after about 30 minutes. And for me, he well off the pace. Him and Doggy, very poor today. And a lot of the players need to, when they're going home now, need to look at themselves and actually go, did they do enough today? Didn't see it. Didn't see them throwing their bodies on the line for the club at all. And it was a tough night for a lot of players today.
It's interesting you should say that about the players. Terry, let me ask you, how much of this is on the players and how much of this is on the manager?
Kind of going back on to Bergvall real quick. I have his stats here, Richard. He, at least stats wise, he had a really good game. He had 29 out of 30 passes completed. He won possession 6 times. He had 4 duels won. He had that assist, and he almost scored on that header. What I find interesting, and this goes back to kind of answering your question, Chris. I find that the players aren't as interchangeable as you would like to be. So like just looking at the midfield, it seems like that combination of Sarr, Bergvall, and Gray on Wednesday, it worked, and there seemed to be some cohesion there. But then just changing out one of those players, I understand it's a very different player in Polinia, but that didn't seem to work as well. And it seems like tinkering with one piece really kind of affects the whole. And you'll see that in the defense as well. You'll see that up front as well. And I think that's the tough part. In terms of, I think you have to put some of this on the players. Like some of the players just aren't talented enough. There are times when I think, Richard, you had mentioned this in the beginning, that Fulham just seemed to want it more than us in that first half. That's happened a lot, especially with these so-called lesser teams where they just bully us and they just seem
the teams love the stadium. They all come to the stadium and say they love it.
Right.
They don't want them to do.
But a lot of times that doesn't last for the entire games. There's periods where we'll be really aggressive and we'll be stronger to the ball and we'll win the 50-50s. But too often than not, there seems to be that kind of lack of conviction and just being pushed around by other teams too much. So it's just strange that it's been such a common theme. I mean, this current squad is completely different than our squad from just a few years ago, but it's the same themes that keep coming up. This soft underbelly, not showing the conviction, the inconsistency. It doesn't not seem to matter which players come, which coaches are here. I mean, Levy isn't here anymore. Like we don't even have the convenience of blaming him. I do think there is too much Levy legacy out there. Like when you look at players like Odegaard, who's come in and, you know, they took a punt on him, hoping that he would become the next superstar. How much of that is Levy? How much of that is Johan Lange? I don't know. But that kind of makes me excited for the January transfer window. Like we're all kind of grasping onto the hope that we're going to act differently just because Levy's not there. That may or may not be the case, but at least that hope is there that could happen. And we'll know within that first week of January how serious this new administration is. And maybe that's the catalyst to something different for us. But kind of long answer short, it has to be a combination of this schizophrenic team. So just whatever's underlying in the water at Tottenham that brings the same common themes year over year, and then kind of these confusing tactics is what you taught, and these constantly changing tactics and players getting familiar with each other. It's just a bad mix. It's like a perfect storm of everything right now.
Chris, what's your thoughts?
Like I said earlier, Rich, I feel like very in the middle right now. I want things to be a lot better. We want to win games, and I expected a lot more. The expectation was a lot greater. I feel like a lot of people thought that we were going to do some special things this year, and I've always said that it was meant to be a springboard, us winning the Europa League, to go on to bigger and better things. And it feels like the club is going backwards again. And I don't like seeing this, and I don't like seeing the fans unhappy, and I don't like seeing so many empty seats that we've got week in, week out, and it seems to be getting worse as well. The fact that Javi Simons can't start a game at the moment, I'm quite worried about that, because we've gone from buying Morgan Gibbs-White to Eze to then Javi Simons, and then a lot of people said, well, actually, we've got the better deal anyway. And then Eze done, what he did to us last week in the North London derby. Eze just can't seem to get a start under Thomas Frank. I don't think that Thomas Frank knows his best 11. He's tinkering with the team, he's tinkering with the tactics week in, week out, which I don't think is a good thing for the players. And it's funny, Terry, because both you and I and a number of the other regulars, we've spoken about him changing the team on a regular basis as a positive thing.
Yeah.
I no longer think that. I think it is a negative thing. I think there's a lot of work to do. But on the other hand, Rich, I do think that, yes, we've got injured players out. So I always, and I said this under Ange as well, I always want to see a manager have the best players available in their squad to really know what they can do. But I also said in the podcast tonight, and I've also said in the last couple of days, the results and performances cannot continue. In performances, if you see signs where you think, oh, actually, we've lost games, but, the performances have been good and you can take a lot of positives out of game.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to take a lot of positives out of a lot of games, and that is what really does worry me. I feel like these next few weeks are absolute key. I really, really do. And we'll come on to talk about this next week in the next few minutes, because Newcastle away on Tuesday, extremely tough. Brentford, of course, they're doing well under Keith Andrews as well. That's going to be a difficult game. Just to wrap this game up, on 71 minutes, great skill from Mohamed Kudus. Pedro Porro ended up crossing into the box, then it was headed over the bar. A couple of minutes later, Smith Rowe, who came on as a second half sub for Fulham, he had a shot blocked. On 77 minutes, Sarr came on, Bergvall went off. On 81 minutes, Udogie had a chance which went wide. Kevin then had a shot, E.G. Vicario on 83 minutes. And in 5 minutes from time, Tell coming on, Udogie coming off. Let's go on to the last question of the podcast. This next week or so, Terry, games are coming thick and fast. Things aren't easy when games are coming thick and fast because, constant rotation. He's got to give certain players game time. Newcastle away on Tuesday. It's another quick turnaround. How are you feeling ahead of this Newcastle game? Because, of course, it was only a couple of weeks ago that we lost in the Carabao Cup. A quick exit for Spurs. And as I also mentioned, Spurs are 10th in the league table. We are going down that league table pretty fast, although it is very tight in their mid-table here. 18 points from 13 games. Newcastle, a good win at Everton today. They also have 18 points from 13 games. We have a +5 goal difference. They have a +1 goal difference. This is, without doubt, a mid-table clash. It is 10th v 11th or 11th v 10th.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw Newcastle against Everton. They looked great today. There aren't many fixtures that you have less confidence in than away at Newcastle, right? Other than going away to Stamford Bridge or the Emirates. That's what makes today hurt that much more, because with this fixture list and with Brentford playing the way that they are, this Fulham game really felt kind of like a must-win. Because as toxic as it is now, if we were to somehow lose to the two next games, which isn't completely out of the question, especially that Newcastle one, you've got to wonder how much time Thomas Frank would have left here. It's Richard, you had asked Chris about about his thoughts. Just hypothetically, if you guys woke up, if we all woke up tomorrow morning and somehow Frank was sacked and we had a caretaker manager, what would be your overriding emotion? Would it be relief, happiness, shock, scared? Like, how would you feel if you found out that he was sacked?
Nothing now, Terry, ever shocks me being a Spurs fan. Absolutely nothing. I wouldn't be happy, but I wouldn't be sad. I want the best for the football club, and I always ask the question, as well as that question that I said to you earlier about are we daring, and we're not. I always ask the question when a manager is going through a tough period. I always ask, can another manager come in and get better out of these players? Because one thing I had a lot of hope for, we have seen Thomas Frank improve a lot of players at Brentford, and he has been extremely successful. But I also understand that he's a couple of months Is that enough time for a manager to get the best out of players? And we do need a lot better players. We to challenge on all fronts. For all the competitions, this squad needs to be a lot better. The depth needs to be a lot better.
Yeah.
I agree.
We
I
have to
definitely
remember when Frank came in that there was a lot of talk about how slow he had started at his previous clubs, including Brentford. I don't think they had a win in their first 9 games. We forgot about that because we had such a good start this year. So it seems to be kind of reverting back to that slow start. I don't want to be the only one kind of supporting or standing behind Thomas Frank. I just want to mention that because like that is kind of his reputation here.
Yeah, and I when he was appointed, one of the things that I wasn't massively kind of enthusiastic about the employment because of lack of European experience, but also, yes, he developed players, but had he worked with players that were better than the ones that he had at Brentford? And no, sometimes it's about kind of matching the manager with the ambitions of the board, and was that the case? And has that changed now? Does he need more time? I think inevitably, like I said at the start, after a short amount of time, sacking a coach when he hasn't had all his tools, his great weapons, all his great players available, it makes no sense, obviously. But I think the problem is, it isn't the players. That's not the problem, as in available. It's the passion that we're not seeing on the pitch. We're not seeing, like, when I knew Sonny was giving his all, he'd be on his knees at the end of 90 minutes. He'd literally be gasping for breath, and he'd be sobbing when we lost, or he'd be sobbing when he had a shit game.
And it's fair to say as well, Rich, that North London derby last week was completely unacceptable. I know Thomas Frank in the last couple of days has come out and said that he was very unhappy and he felt angry about that. But you've got to give more in a North London derby. I don't care who the managers are, who the players are. You have to give absolutely everything in that game.
Yeah, you watch the players that when they came, all the bullshit. Like I say, I know this. I'm on that, over that white line professionally, shaking hands with people at the end of the game when you played shit. Fuck that. It's bullshit. You can't be doing, and not just for yourself, but for the club. You need to be giving everything, and then you need to be leaving it all out on the pitch. If you lose 4-1, but you've given everything, you've at least tried. And that's the problem that I'm seeing now. Watching that game today, that first half, none of those players, and all the walking off together and all that rubbish, they should have been running off to the change room. How are we going to? Where's the solution? Let's sort this out. We're better than this, and then come back on the pitch in second half with intent. I'm just seeing lots of bad, negative behaviour.
Right, very last question for you all, or for both of you. Score predictions for the Newcastle game. What changes would you like to see made? And Terry, you might as well give us a score prediction for the Brentford game as well. Is it going to be a good week for Thomas Frank and Tottenham and us, or is it going to be a poor week? And could we see changes?
I don't want to answer this question. I can't see us going away and getting an away win at Newcastle. Having said that, just because this team is so unpredictable, like watch us go there and get a 3-0 win or something. That's what my heart is hoping. It feels more like a 3-1 loss to me at Newcastle. I think Brentford, given everything that's at stake, given how well he knows that club, we should win that game, right? We kind of have to win. We kind of have to win that game. I'm hoping for a 2-0 there. In terms of changes that I'd like to see, I'd like to see the old Romero back, like not the Romero that we saw against PSG. Midfield is a tough one, really. I think, like, we wanted to see some spark, and we saw that with Gray and Bergvall on Wednesday, and that's why they started today, and that's why Xavi wasn't in there. I don't know how well Xavi would fare against that midfield of Guimaraes and Joe Linton. That seems like a pretty big task for him. Up front, I don't know. I really don't want to see Richarlison and Odegaard. Maybe tinkering with the system again. That 4-4-2 that we had at PSG. Like if Richarlison is there, maybe just having the two of them, having Colomwani and Richarlison up front. Maybe that could be a solution. But then that takes Kudus out of the picture. Almost all of our attack came from Kudus and Porro today. So there are a lot of choices, but there's no obvious choices to this, and that's the problem. I'd love to be a fly in the wall just in those coaches' meetings, just to hear the difference of opinions between Frank and Matty Wells and Justin Cochran. I bet the three of them all think there's different combinations and different opinions on who the best starting 11 is. It's there's so many there's so many options, but like none are standouts. None are good enough to stand up and say like this is the team that we can stand with and trust every single game going in and out.
And finally, with you, Rich.
Yeah, look, again, we need to have something positive out of the game with Newcastle. And even if it's a draw, even if it's a point, it's a battled point. I think that's what I'm going to go for Newcastle. I'm going to go for 1-1, probably Newcastle. Hard defensive kind of result. I think Frank's shipped so many goals over the last 3 games. It needs to be a more secure defensive result. And then we need to then go and beat, obviously, Brentford. I think after the week that we've had, just poor performance, not the results, just a poor reality of it showed the negative side of the team. Frank needs to now go, actually, look, whatever team he's going to pick to get a result against Brentford, but we're going to really kind of work hard as a team to get a point at Newcastle. And whether that's 1-1, 0-0, whatever, it's definitely not going to be 0-0 anyway. But if it's 1-1, 2-2, whatever, but we need something positive, because if we lose heavily against Newcastle, this could be like serious trouble for the club going down the league, but also Frank and his job. Because is the board going to accept another heavy defeat? I'm not sure if being beaten by Newcastle 5 or 6-1 would sit very well. I think for me, he's going to go really kind of structured, defensive, maybe a couple of tinkers in that midfield, maybe Paulinho, Benzinko and Sarr in midfield, and kind of have it really tight. And Richarlison up front. I think Moani maybe on his own instead of Richarlison, depending which way it goes. But I'd give Johnson a go. And I don't know about on the left. I'm not sure.
Rich, let's end on a positive. Many congratulations. You have completed now 100 marathons.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Crazy. I know, crazy. Yeah. So 20 this year. 100 was New York, 2nd of November. As you know, Chris, just battling away all over the world, running 26 miles. So it's been awesome. I've met so many like fans of the show when I've been, whether it's been in Canada, America, even in Africa when I was in Zimbabwe. So many people listen and watch the show, and I really appreciate your support. And whatever the result, obviously Spurs is my team, and that's how it goes. But let's hopefully have more of a positive December and 2026. Come on, you Spurs.
Rich, lastly for you, anything else coming up in the near future for you?
Well, like I said, I've done 20 marathons. I've been working really hard this year, so
you've just done 20 marathons, and I'm saying, what else is happening?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Wetherspoons, and I'm going to put my destination on the next podcast, so everybody can send me some mushy peas or a pint at some Wetherspoons. That's what I'm going to do.
That'd be a good idea. Well, Rich, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I know it's never ever easy talking about a defeat, especially 3 defeats in a week. Terry, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you if they want to, or if you want them to?
Yeah, I don't really want them to. I do follow. I have an X account more just to follow some of the reporters that are out there. But thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure again. It's Chris. Thank you again. Like, especially after days like this, it just your energy and your dedication to set up pods like this, just for us to kind of just hash through this. Really appreciate that. So thank you both. Let's leave this on a positive note. It's hopefully we have a better December. I do think there are glimmers of hope that we can latch onto, and hopefully things change. It's like it really can't get worse than this past week, right?
I hope not. I really do, and yeah, as you said, I hope things do improve. I really do. Well, thanks to Leigh, who joined us earlier. Thanks to Terry. Thanks to Richard. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching the show. If you'd like to get involved in one of the shows that I'll be doing, probably on Sunday, one of the fan shows, please do send me an email. It's tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com, where you can come on and have your say about everything Tottenham. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone, and we will see you for another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast on Tuesday after the Newcastle game. Have a good one. Come on, you Spurs.